methodical, deliberate campaign to destroy Iran's missile and drone arsenal, its ability to manufacture them in the future, to ever have nuclear weapons, or to threaten the Strait of Hormuz. And President Trump has been crystal clear: we will not allow a radical, revolutionary regime in Iran to threaten one of the world's most strategic and vital waterways.
That was Senator Tom Cotton with us earlier, touting the commander-in-chief on Operation Epic Fury. And this just in, President Trump telling Axios that the conflict with Iran will end soon. He adds there's, quote, practically nothing left to target of the regime. Comes as CENTCOM updated this morning that the U.S. has taken out more than 60 Iranian ships since the start of the operation. Greg Palcott is live in Istanbul, Turkey. Hi, Greg.
Hi, Dana. Yeah, that's right. It has been a very active 24 hours of punches and counterpunches in this war involving the U.S., Israel, and Iran. Tehran and its allies striking hard at the U.S. in the region. Iran-backed militias firing 6 drones at what's called a U.S. diplomatic logistical hub near the Baghdad airport in Iraq. Reports are 1 made it through, but no word of casualties. As U.S. bases in Qatar, Bahrain, the UAE, and the northeastern Kurdistan region of Iraq also targeted. And there was another drone attack by Iran on a Kurdish Iranian militia base in Iraq. Tehran wants to make certain a talked-up land incursion by these rebels doesn't have a chance of getting started. This as Israel and the U.S. continue to pound dozens of locations in Tehran and across Iran, including military and security installations, an underground missile complex, police command centers, trying to break down the security infrastructure of the country. And trying to contain the fighting, U.S.-built Patriot defense systems seen being put in place today in southeastern Turkey. This is an especially vulnerable area with a big U.S. air base nearby. Dana, Turkish President Erdogan claimed today there was still a chance diplomacy could resolve this conflict, while at the same time acknowledging the region and the global economy could be close to turmoil. Back to you.
There's so much going on. Greg, thank you.
Yeah, and incidentally, CENTCOM just sent out an alert just within the last 10 or 20 minutes that what they did is obviously, or not obviously, but what they did is an obvious attempt to protect the citizens of Iran that are in and around the harbor structure along the coastline. They said they're going to bomb the hell out of all of the harbors as they're pursuing ultimately an endgame strategy. And we've heard this endgame strategy from Trump a few times, and he's now hinting that he just needs to clean up the Strait of Hormuz, make sure that that shipping lane is safe, protected, and wide open. So obviously oil can, and other trade, but oil specifically, can start to get movement through there without too much disruption. So again, CENTCOM, this is breaking. CENTCOM just sent a message out to the people of Iran that live along the coastlines. Get out. Because that's really, I think, where the last thrust of the war effort and the bombing effort with the Americans and Israelis is going. That ultimately Trump has said this, right? And he mentioned it in this clip, that there's not much left to do. I don't think that they're going to wrap up anything further or kind of start to put a pseudo pause to this until they have a little bit more work left to do within the harbor structure. I think they've taken out the Navy, but now they want to make sure that anybody that has bad intentions can't get access to the water. Obviously, that does not address the drone situation. They can be launching drones all day long from the coastline of Iran over the Strait of Hormuz. So in my opinion, and I'm curious what you think, all of this is pointing now to maybe days, if not just a couple of weeks left to straighten up the Strait of Hormuz, and we'll see. I know this has been an issue that has split MAGA big time, and you can have your opinion, and as I do as well. This has not been a unified agreement from the Republican side. You've seen a lot of the champions saying the same talking points, but the voting bloc has been split on why we did this, why we had to do it now, and what are the true intentions behind it. That's for a different video. This video is all about the wrapping up of this, because ultimately the more time we're there, the more time that our soldiers are in dangerous way, and we don't want that. So let's keep going here.
And for more on this, we're going to bring in retired U.S. Navy SEAL officer Mike Sorelli. Mike, good morning to you.
Bill, thank you.
So I want to pull up these pretty wild satellite images showing some of the work Israel has been doing. They took out a bunch of Iranian jets that were essentially just sitting out there. You can see the before and after, wiping out every jet that you can see in these satellite images. Mike, does it surprise you that Iran just kind of had their jets sitting out in the open like this? It doesn't seem like they got a whole lot off the ground since the start of this war.
No, it shows the paralysis of this regime in the IRGC military. But, you know, this campaign started as a classic joint sort of suppression and paralysis sequence. We're now at a phase where it is systematic attrition through kill chain operations. That's combining ISR with precision strikes, with BDA across multiple echelons in almost near real time. What it requires now is persistence and patience to continue to degrade their military, which completely destroys their ability to project power on a regional basis.
Democratic Senator Tammy Duckworth says this is all being done essentially for political gain. Take a listen.
And what we have right now is a president who launched a war of choice without truly thinking it through and just threw our troops into harm's way without any way of safeguarding them. You know, if Pete Hegseth actually paid attention in officer basic course, he'd know that any operations order ends with what is the end state. There is no end state here that they've been able to articulate.
Mike, what do you think about Senator?
And incidentally, Senator Duckworth, right, forgot the fact that the truth is, and the internet has all of this, that the Democrat Party was for going after Iran a number of times. A little softer message, obviously, with Obama, but Biden kind of positioned himself that gave, you know, the Ayatollah some red lines and did all this baloney. So Tammy Duckworth is disingenuous at best if you're going to position the Democrat side as being against having to deal with a hostile regime in Iran. That's just not been the traditional Democrat position over the last 10 years.
Duckworth essentially trying to lecture Pete Hegseth there.
Feckless. That's a feckless response. My only question to her is anything worth fighting for? The amount of blood, of American blood on Iranian hands is massive. From Beirut to even the soldiers I fought alongside in Sadr City who were killed by Iranian, what we call EFPs. So, you know, President Trump and this administration has been very clear about the objectives. Destroy any nuclear missile capabilities, degrade their military, remove their maritime threat to the Strait of Hormuz, and eliminate as much of the regime leadership as possible.
And again, for those of you, just from a geography standpoint, if you look in the bottom right here, right, obviously the yellow part is Iran, but that pinch point, right, between the seas is the Strait of Hormuz, and it's only about 30 or 40 miles at best. So it's easily accessible by amateur drones. It doesn't take a state-sponsored drone to be able to police or do some damage there. That's why you've seen Donald Trump saying we're going to drop some insurance policies on any boats that go through there, or keep insurance policies so that these corporations that are trying to move into ultimately the northern part of the region and get through the Saudi Arabia area and back up into the Mediterranean, that they can do so. Now, it's important to also note that the U.S. isn't dependent on this oil per se to keep our economy together. This is really a global issue, and that's why you've seen oil spike. That Russia, China, India, others are highly dependent on the oil that's being progressed and transported through the Strait of Hormuz. Back to the original point, that is Donald Trump's focus at this point. The last focus, and he mentioned this just yesterday, is that the Ayatollah's son has now evidently been voted into power, but we interestingly haven't seen him since that message got out, because what Donald Trump said is the second part to his agreeing to finish this war effort up, at least at this phase, is to make sure that he and the American administration, or Trump administration, have a say in who Iran is going to select as their next leader. And I don't think he's too hot on the son of Khomeini. Keep in mind, the son of Khomeini is not very happy at all right now, because we killed his father and his mother his grandmother, and a couple of his cousins and his sister. So he is not going to be somebody that's going to be pro-American at all. I don't think the chances of finding a pro-American other than the past prince of Iran, who's now doing a lot of the negotiations with the peace work, would be an ideal candidate as far as Donald Trump is concerned. So it all points to finishing up here within days and weeks. We all hope and pray. And it's pointing to the Strait of Hormuz. And it's also pointing to not having the son of the Ayatollah be the next leader. That's where we are. Let me know what your thoughts are. Do you agree with this footing? Because as I mentioned, this has not been something that that within the Republican ranks has been a unified agreement on at all. At all. I'm curious what your thoughts are. Like this video if you haven't yet. Subscribe to the channel at America First Alerts. We'd love to have you along for the ride. We'll see you in the next video.
We won.
Okay, let's go.
We won.